Welcome back to USA Car Reviews. Today we are diving into one of the most legendary American muscle cars ever built, a car that has earned a place in automotive history as both a street machine and a drag strip hero. We are talking about the 1970 Chevrolet Nova SS 454. Now, when you think about the Nova, most people imagine it as Chevrolet's compact car, the affordable entry point into the Chevy lineup back in the late 1960s and early 70s. But in 1970, Chevrolet decided to unleash a monster and drop in the mighty 454 cubic inch big block V8 under that small body. And what they created was nothing short of a beast. The Chevy Nova had always been about simplicity. It wasn't overloaded with fancy features or heavy luxury trim. It was lightweight, compact, and relatively inexpensive. That's exactly what made it the perfect candidate for Chevrolet to turn into a straight-line terror. The 1970 Nova SS 454 was the definition of power-to-weight ratio done right. Imagine a small car with a gigantic big block engine stuffed into it, and you've got one of the most underrated muscle cars of its time. The star of the show here is, of course, the 454 cubic inch V8. Now, there were actually two different versions of this engine available. You had the LS5, rated at 360 horsepower, and then you had the Holy Grail, the LS6, rated at a factory 450 horsepower. Keep in mind, this was back in 1970, and those horsepower numbers were still being reported in gross rating, which means in reality, the engine was even stronger than it looked on paper. The LS6 Nova was incredibly rare and is now one of the most sought-after collector cars in the muscle car world. When you fired up that 454, the sound alone told you this was not an ordinary compact car. The deep, throaty rumble of the big block exhaust echoed with authority. On the street, the Nova SS 454 could easily hold its own against the likes of Chevelle SS, Dodge Charger, or Plymouth Road Runner. But because the Nova was smaller and lighter, it had a bit of an edge when it came to acceleration. With the right driver and a set of sticky tires, this car could dip into the low 13-second quarter-mile range, and with modifications, many owners saw even faster times. That's why the Nova became such a drag strip favorite during the 1970s. Styling-wise, the 1970 Nova was simple and clean. No wild stripes, no over-the-top scoops, just a small, muscular body with subtle SS badging to let you know it was something special. The front end had that straightforward Chevrolet look, with dual headlights and a wide grille. Out back, the taillights were square and simple. Inside, you didn't get much luxury either. You had basic vinyl bucket seats, a no-nonsense dashboard, and optional gauges if you wanted to keep an eye on that monster motor. But again, that was the charm of the Nova. It wasn't about luxury, it was about raw performance in a small, affordable package. And affordability was key. In 1970, a Nova SS was much cheaper than a fully loaded Chevelle or Camaro, which meant younger buyers could actually get their hands on serious horsepower without breaking the bank. That gave the Nova a reputation as a street sleeper. From the outside, it looked like a simple economy car, but under the hood, it had enough power to embarrass just about anything that lined up next to it at a stoplight. Of course, insurance companies and the looming fuel crisis of the early 70s would eventually bring an end to this golden era of muscle cars. Big block Novas quickly disappeared from showrooms as insurance rates skyrocketed and emissions regulations tightened. That makes the 1970 Chevy Nova SS 454 not only a legendary car but also one of the last true big block compacts to ever be produced. Today, finding an original 1970 Nova SS 454, especially with the LS6 engine, is like striking gold. These cars are highly collectible, with prices easily climbing into six figures for pristine examples. Car enthusiasts love them not just for their rarity but because they represent the raw, untamed spirit of American muscle. No computers, no traction control, just a small car with a giant motor and the guts to take on anything on the street or the strip. What also makes the Nova so iconic is how it fits into the muscle car culture. While cars like the Chevelle SS 454 or the Camaro Z28 got more of the spotlight, the Nova was always lurking in the background, surprising people who underestimated it. It was the underdog that packed a knockout punch. Even today, you'll see Novas dominating at drag races, heavily modified and tuned to produce insane horsepower numbers. That lightweight body and big engine combination is still a winning formula more than 50 years later. Driving a 1970 Nova SS 454 is a visceral experience. The heavy clutch, the mechanical shifter, the way the engine shakes the entire car at idle, it's all pure muscle car theater. And once you put your foot down, the surge of torque pins you back into the seat and reminds you that this was an era when car manufacturers weren't afraid to push the limits. There's nothing refined or delicate about it. It's raw, it's loud, and it's brutally fast. And that's exactly what muscle car fans love. So why does the 1970 Chevrolet Nova SS 454 still matter today? Because it captures the essence of what American muscle cars were all about. Simplicity, affordability, and outrageous horsepower. It was never about luxury or high-tech gadgets. It was about building a car that could take on anything in a straight line and win. The Nova SS 454 was a muscle car stripped down to its purest form, and that's why it remains one of the most respected names among enthusiasts. Here at USA Car Reviews, we believe the 1970 Chevy Nova SS 454 deserves just as much recognition as its bigger brothers like the Chevelle and Camaro. It may not have been as flashy, but it was every bit as powerful, and in many ways, it was the smarter buy for anyone who wanted maximum performance for their dollar. It was a car built for real drivers, for the street racers, the drag strip warriors, and the everyday enthusiast who wanted to own a piece of the American muscle dream. That's going to wrap up our deep dive into the legendary 1970 Chevrolet Nova SS 454. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with other classic car fans. And as always, keep it locked here at USA Car Reviews for more deep dives into the machines that made American muscle unforgettable.